It's time once again for the Maple Grove City Report. I'm Dave Kaiser from CCX Media. Thanks for joining us. With us is Heidi Nelson, Maple Grove City Administrator. Good afternoon, Heidi. How are you today?
Good to see you, Dave.
You as well. Thanks for spending some time. We have a meeting that was 1 hour and 10 minutes long from January 19th to talk about, but also a work session ahead of that and a special meeting afterwards. And plus, as always, plenty of things happening in the city of Maple Grove to update you on. Heidi, let's begin with the work session ahead of time. And as we talked at the last meeting, there was a lot on this agenda. Tell us a little bit about some of the items. Let's begin with police body camera in squad cameras. What was the discussion there?
Yeah, so the police department has been working on kind of an analysis of the options that they have for implementing body cameras in the police department. In addition to that, our in-squad cameras are ready to be replaced. So the goal was really to come up with one system that kind of addressed everything. So presented that information to the city council. Little bit of process here. So selecting a vendor, and then the policy part of it has to be, there's a public comment period for that policy piece of this work that we'll be going with next. And so reviewed that and the timeline. So council was comfortable with us moving forward. We're going to be working with Axon and their body camera system and in-squad cameras to move that forward. So those contracts with Axon will come back at the February. I believe we're ready to go on February 1st with those contracts. And then the policy work will come before the council, and there'll be a public comment period on those policies. And we're looking for like a June, July timeframe implementation of those body cameras. So good work by Chief Werner and Commander Wetternock on this to put this all together and do the analysis of the various vendors and what really was the right fit for Maple Grove PD. And so really happy to have this one moving forward. And so you'll see more action on this one coming forward.
Very good. We will keep you up to date as that process moves ahead. The next item is a local option for sales tax. And this is something that will come up later on in the council agenda, but it was discussed ahead of time. Give us a little background here of why it's being discussed and how it might be used potentially in the city.
Yeah, so it's part of our 2020, 2022 goals, and then as well as our legislative agenda for this coming year. Part of that work was to identify a financing plan and advance a financing plan for the eventual community center project. So really was kind of a three-pronged approach. It was to look at the local option sales tax, look at state bonding for that project, as well as a potential carve out of our lodging tax. And we talked a little bit in the past about our relationship with Minneapolis Northwest Tourism and maybe leaving that and kind of going out on our own and then carving out a bit of that revenue for capital purposes. So kind of a three-pronged approach to that financing plan. The work session discussion was really focused on that local option sales tax. So lots of steps in this process and a very long kind of runway to getting a local option sales tax implemented. But the first step, and this is kind of a new process at the legislature, the first step is for the local government, the city, to pass a resolution in support and identify kind of the project and what the tax generation might look like. So what we're proposing is a half cent for 20 years. And those things needed to be identified in that resolution and then presented to the legislature by January 31st to be considered in this 2021 tax bill. Sort of a lot of technical steps in there as well, but what's really key here for the community is that this needs, per state law, this needs to go on a ballot for local referendum. So for instance, if we were to receive legislative approval in 2021, during the 2022 regular election, there would be a question on the ballot that residents would be able to vote as to whether they supported the use of a local option sales tax to fund eventual community center project. So a couple benefits, I think everybody expressed sort of concern about, not being a fan of taxes, those kinds of things. But I think the piece about a local option sales tax is it really kind of broadens the base of who's paying for a facility. Captures those that are coming to Maple Grove for services and for shopping and those kinds of things, really broadens the base and diversifies the funding for a project like what's envisioned at the community center. So, I think a little hesitancy, but a willingness to explore it. So this, again, is the first step in that process. And there's many, many steps to come and kind of a long runway. And, some cities, it takes several years to get considered by the legislature during the last session. None of them were considered. So this is kind of an opening salvo to the legislature. And then again, a requirement for a local referendum where the residents would be able to vote. So more information to come on this one. And you mentioned we were on the regular agenda later with that resolution, and we'll talk about that, but did get support to move forward. And so we're going to be proceeding to submit that information to the legislature here before the end of the month. So more to come on this one, and a lot more information, in the next year and a half, depending on how things go in the session. A lot more to come on, the costs associated with the community center project, what that would encompass, and how that local option sales tax would be used to fund that. So more information to come on this one, and we'll kind of see what happens in the session.
That will keep us busy in the coming months. Next item at the work session ahead of the January 19th meeting was the acting mayor discussion. Again, something that was brought up off of the consent agenda at the last meeting. Give us an update on this discussion.
Yeah, so this issue was raised at the January 4th meeting for discussion, and wanting to talk about, there's our city ordinance talks about it being the most senior member of the council, and then there has been a practice in the past of kind of rotating it amongst council members. And so, there was a request to go back to the rotating process. Council discussed that and decided to stick with the most senior member, so we won't see a change to that one this year.
Okay. And final item at the work session was talk about contributions to nonprofits and community organizations. And again, this was something that was mentioned at a recent council meeting in January and now comes back to the work session. Give us an idea of this discussion.
Yeah, so this kind of got driven by a request from the Maple Grove Arts Center for a contribution. We've made contributions to them, I think kind of for the past 4 years, $2,000 to help kind of support their location over there at the shops, utility bills, that kind of a thing. I think there was just some general questions about, other organizations that we contribute to, and should we have a process for this kind of a thing. The council sort of landed on not contributing to the Art Center this year, not wanting it to become kind of a perennial request, a budget support for them. So we won't be moving forward with that one this year per that direction.
So that ends the work session on the 19th. And again, it was on the 19th. That was a Tuesday because of the holiday. The meeting on the 19th was hour 10. One item pulled from that consent agenda, and that had to do with the DARE program, and some news here about ways people help out that program. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we had a couple of items on the agenda. We have a couple functions within the police department, the DARE program, which is kind of the drug abuse resistance education program in the school district, as well as our K-9 program, where people often donate money to those programs to help support them. And so this was the authorization for us to solicit and accept those donations. There's a process we have to follow as a city to do that. And so we do that every year to make sure that we're set up for any donations that might come in for those programs.
Thanks to all those who support those programs. Now into special business, you had a guest at the meeting. Representative Robbins gave a presentation speaking of the legislature. Here, a little update. Tell us a little bit about her thoughts.
Yeah, so she came right from the Capitol off the House floor, and they had a little House session down there, or House committee House activity on the floor, and so came and gave us a little update about what she's anticipating for the session. I think I think things aren't moving real fast down there just because they are meeting remotely and a lot of the staff are working remotely. I've heard numbers of 2,000 to 2,500 bills waiting to be drafted, that kind of a thing. And so I think things will be a little bit slower paced down there and might reduce really the capacity for the legislature to consider new legislation this year. But Representative Robbins playing a role on the tax committee member this year on the House side, and so that's good for us as we're looking at a couple tax provisions. Did talk a little bit about the things that are on our legislative agenda priority in terms of potentially bonding for the community center project, and then that lodging tax issue, as well as the local option sales tax. And so we'll continue to stay in touch with her on that. We've already had a couple meetings with her, but she's ready to go for the session and to work hard for Maple Grove again this year.
Second item under special business related to a longtime member of the Planning Commission. You wanted to take some special time, and it was quite a little bit of time in the meeting to talk about Larry. Give us a little recap of that presentation.
Yeah, so Larry Colson has resigned or retired from the Planning Commission, if you will. He started his service on the Planning Commission in 2003, so that's pretty remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
22, no, let's see, 18 years, that is. And then he's served as its chairperson since 2005. So that's a very long service to the community and to the city. And we, a lot of things were mentioned about what's occurred during Larry's tenure in terms of growth of the community, not only residential, but our commercial industrial growth. And so he's really, sat at the steering wheel of a lot of that and helped guide that. And I've always said there's nothing better than an effective planning commission chair. Mm-hmm. And so Larry certainly leaves big shoes to fill, but a lot of nice comments from the city council about Larry's service and his dedication and running a very swift, organized meeting. And so it was a good night to recognize Larry's service to the community. He's moved out of the state. And so we really wish him all the best in his next chapter of his life. And the Planning Commission did elect a new chair. I think we mentioned this at our last meeting.
Right.
Craig Lamothe will be the new chair, and he'll lead forward and do very well following in Larry's footsteps here. So congratulations and thank you to Larry again.
Yes, congratulations. Third item on special business was one of the longer items for the meeting. This is in response to an event at Maple Tavern. Give us a little recap of this discussion and what brought this discussion forward.
Yeah, so we brought this forward because we were in response to an incident that occurred at the Maple Tavern on November 21st. If folks will recall the situation we were in, this was kind of the last night that bars and restaurants were able to be open, but we were already under kind of a 10 o'clock closure through the governor's order. But we did have a few situations there with kind of over service, management not being sober, that kind of a thing. And then service beyond 1 a.m., which, these concerns that we have weren't even really dealing with the governor's order. They were just strictly violations of their liquor license. And so this is something that we take very seriously. We take liquor licensing responsibility very seriously. We expect that out of our business owners. And so council reviewed this. The owners were not present for this discussion, had submitted some emails in response to a letter from our attorney, but this one will come back to have a hearing and look at the penalty phase of this. But we really do want to kind of course correct here and set the standard that, this isn't really okay in Maple Grove, and we're not going to have business operating like this. And so this one will come back for a hearing and see if I see that. I'm not sure if February 1st might be the second meeting in February, but this one will come back before the council for further consideration.
All right. We will follow up on that when it does come back. Move ahead to community development. One item for community development, and this has been talked about a little bit in the formation stages, Rice Lake Elementary. What are they looking to do at the local school?
Yeah, so this was kind of part of the school district's facility planning efforts. And so this is an expansion up at Rice Lake Elementary. And so it includes a 6th classroom addition, a gymnasium addition, additional parking, and then some outdoor space. So an outdoor classroom, and they're going to reconfigure some of the playground areas, that kind of a thing. So some nice additions to make some more space at Rice Lake Elementary. I think they're going to be moving some things around a little bit for these elementary schools. And so this is part of that plan. And this one got approval, so that they'll probably see some activity on that site come the spring when the school season's over.
Now, a quick look at a few other things happening in community and economic development. Planning Commission coming up on the 25th. It looks like they have a few items that have been in the pipeline, Edgewater and Arbor Lakes Business Park. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Edgewater at Cook Lake, this is that single family rental project kind of on the northwest corner of 101 and Bass Lake Road. That one will be coming forward for kind of its final stage of approvals. And then we'll be looking again at Arbor Lakes Business Park, phase 2 out there, just kind of due east of the fountains. Duke is looking to do kind of that next phase of that project out there. We are planning on the 8th of February to have a joint City Council Planning Commission, kind of a virtual planning session for the Main Street Design Project. And so that will be held that evening prior to the Planning Commission meeting. And then we have a new business in town, Maple Grove Nutrition, kind of up in the the strip mall. They're right next to Lotus up there, just off of Weaver, the Dairy Queen strip mall. I kind of always think of it as that. Maple Grove Nutrition, they'll be celebrating a grand opening this Friday, January 22nd at 2:30 in the afternoon. So welcome to Maple Grove Nutrition, and we wish them all the best and look forward to this ribbon cutting on Friday.
And it looks like smoothies, juices, and teas are some of the favorite items that you can find there. Let's talk about an opening then on the Planning Commission. You mentioned some of the movement that's happened there. And not only Planning Commission, but there's a few other boards and commissions that you're looking for Maple Grove residents to help.
Yeah, so the applications for these vacancies are open until the close of business on Wednesday, January 27th. All that information is available on our website. As you mentioned, we do have one opening on the Planning Commission, one opening on the Arbor Commission, and then we have 3 vacancies on the Lake Quality Commission. So if you're interested in serving, go check out the information on the website and get your application turned in by January 27th.
One final note from community development that was reported on at the meeting on the 19th was the upgrade to property maintenance reporting. And this is the new See-Click Fix program. How does this work?
Yeah, so we mentioned that we made a transition to our it was a system previously called YourGov, and this was an update to that. So where that company was bought out, transitioned to See-Click Fix. So this is really an app, or you can do it on the website as well, where people can report any type of complaint that they have that needs to get addressed. And so, anything from pothole to code enforcement type of complaints, animal complaints, those kinds of things. We really want to make sure people still call 911 if it's an emergency, but this is kind of for those non-emergency type code enforcement, public works, parks related complaints. The beauty of this is it comes into the system and goes directly to the staff that are charged with addressing those types of things. So a lot more efficient for us. And then it kind of connects back to our asset management system and tracks, if we have a series of complaints for potholes on a certain street, when it comes time to do street maintenance, we really can look at that data and say, geez, what's going on out there? Is there prioritize those streets for some work. So great system. So we encourage people, if you were in the YourGov system, you do need to do a new sign in to the See-Click Fix, but we really do encourage people to use this for submitting complaints to the city.
Let's move ahead to the report from Public Works and Engineering, and the Emerald Ash Borer is back in discussion, and there I understand is a work plan ready to go.
Yeah, so we're proceeding with the work in response to EAB, or Emerald Ash Borer. And so it's kind of a combination approach. We'll be doing we had been doing some treatment. We'll continue to do some treatment in selective areas, and then also some targeted removal. So we'll see some of that work happening in the right of way and in some public areas this coming rest of the winter and then into the summer months as well.
One other note from engineering was 610 once again, and I understand some meetings happening recently. What was discussed there?
Yeah, so we're in discussion with MMB down at the state Office of Management and Budget about those state bonding dollars and kind of the timing of those and what we need in terms of submittals, what kind of information MnDOT's going to be, or MMB is going to be needing for release of those dollars. And we've got to think about the timing a little bit here. We're not quite, we don't quite have everything squared away on the funding side. So just working with them to understand kind of what their trigger points are on timing for that funding. And Ken Ashfeld's leading that effort and making sure we're staying on top of those issues.
Very good. And final notes in the meeting, you had a few updates related to, first, the sales tax. We discussed that a little bit earlier. Anything additional to add here about that process? It was again approved at this point, correct?
Yeah, and again, what's approved is this resolution of support. So basically, this gets forwarded onto the legislature for their consideration, and we'll just kind of see what's going to be taken up on the tax front this year and how that might happen in a tax bill. Couple other things, just a lot of legislative activity. Again, it's all remote at this time, so it feels a little bit different. But MLC, the Municipal Legislative Commission, which is a group that's made up of the kind of larger suburbs in the metro area, they have their legislative breakfast this Friday. Normally, we get together over at the Plymouth Creek Center for that event, but that'll be Friday, January 22nd at 7:50 in the morning on a Zoom platform, and just a lot of legislator meetings going on. So keeping the council apprised of those items for their calendars.
One final item to touch on. As you see, it was a busy night on the 19th, and this was a quick EDA meeting related to the SAC credits. We touched on this the last time we got together. What was the progress made in this EDA meeting?
Yeah, so if you recall at our last EDA meeting, we developed a policy for the use of community-wide SAC credits. And so these are basically when a site is redeveloped or a use transitions and you had a certain number of SAC credits or sewer access credits on
Mm-hmm.
a site, and the new use or new user is less. Sometimes there's credits that are available there,
Okay.
and if we don't have a program and we don't claim them, they just kind of go to waste. And so we put a program and policy in place to be able to capture those from Met Council and then reutilize them for small business in the community. And so this was to provide that. It was a credit policy request from the Minnesota Play Cafe. They're moving in over at the shops at Arbor Lakes. And so having this new policy in place allowed us to assist there and provide some of those community-wide credits. There's still credits available in the system. So if there's businesses out there that are seeking that assistance, Brett Angel in our economic development office can assist with that. So good to have that policy in place and to be able to help out a small business that's moving to town.
Very good. One other note now, we're not done with the 19th yet. There was a special session that happened after that related to coal tar litigation. This is something we have talked about for quite some time, and this was another update in that process. What was discussed at this special meeting?
Yeah, so we had some information from our plaintiff's attorney about kind of the status of the litigation and what's happening and some direction that was needed. And so needed to call a closed session. This is ongoing litigation, so it qualifies for a closed meeting for the city council. So they were able to get some input from our city attorney, Justin Templin, who's been kind of working with the other legal counsel on this and get some direction from the council about where this litigation is headed. So continues to move forward and just some shifting and moving.
All right, that officially wraps up all that went on the 19th in the city of Maple Grove. It was a busy night. We'll give you the next council meeting date in a few minutes. Let's spend the next 8 minutes or so talking about things happening around the city. And one to put on your calendar is a special State of the City event. And Heidi, I understand it's going to have to look a little different this year than it has in the past.
Yes. So if you recall, we've been doing our own kind of State of the City event for the last few years here, typically at the community center on a Thursday or Friday morning in late February, where we have a program and talk about the state of the city. And so not able to gather this year, but we will be working on putting together kind of a online format for that type of a program and kind of provide information out to the community about the state of the city and what we're looking at going ahead into 2021. So stay tuned for more information about that one. Might look a little bit the same, similar type format as last year, but an online format.
Delivered a little differently. Let's talk about Black History Month, and there's some very unique contests going on in the area and some unique partners working on this. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Parks and Recreation and the shops at Arbor Lakes are hosting a youth literary and art contest as part of Black History Month. There are 2 age groups for the contest, ages 14 and under, and then ages 15 through 18. Youth are invited to share their talent in writing, poetry, or art, and submissions are accepted through January 31st. Details on how to participate can be found on the Maple Grove Parks and Recreation Facebook page. And then participants are eligible to win prizes, and finalists will be featured on the Facebook page during February, which is Black History Month. So we really encourage youth in the community for ages 14 to 18 to get involved with this kind of unique event. And thanks to the shops for their partnership on this one.
Yeah, very neat idea. Sounds fun. All right, update on the farmers market. And listen closely here. Something has changed a little bit about the indoors market. What is that?
Yeah, so for the winter months, they're getting a little creative here and they're moving to Sundays in February, March, and April. So there'll be an indoor farmers market. And again, our location that we're using right now is at the shops at Arbor Lakes. It's in that end cap space where Forever 21 used to be. And so they're going to be doing a farmers market on Sunday, February 14th, something fun to go out and do for Valentine's Day. And then March 21st and April 18th. And so the hours for those indoor farmers market on Sunday, again, is from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. So kind of a midday event. So we really encourage people to get out. I think it's kind of a fun change for the winter months. Get out and do something fun on a Sunday and hit the farmers market.
That sounds good. All right. Get ready for a couple quick updates of ways to keep active and involved in the city. First is Wonders of Winter. When is this event coming up and what happens there?
Yeah, so this is on Saturday, February 20th. The event is at Central Park from 1 to 4. Guests can enjoy, and this is all free outdoor activities, including a scavenger hunt, ice luminaries, and much more. So Saturday, February 20th at Central Park.
one of the updates we pass along during winter on a regular basis is updates on skating opportunities. How are we doing now, Heidi? Where can we skate and when?
Yeah, so the outdoor rinks are open as well as the Central Park Skate Loop. You still do need reservation for the Central Park Skate Loop, and we are doing rentals over there now. So if you're interested in getting out, check the website to sign up for your time slot over there.
And if you think it's a little too cold to skate, you can go over to the community center and take a swim. But reservations here as well?
They are. So again, on the website, you can sign up for your time slot to come in and use the leisure pool as well as the lap pool.
All right, let's combine those two last thoughts together. Swimming in cold water. How about the Polar Plunge? That's going to change a little bit this year as well. When will that happen?
Yeah, so the date's pushed out a little bit. It'll be in Maple Grove on Saturday, March 13th at Fish Lake Regional Park, which is kind of the same location every year. They will have COVID-19 protocols in place, which means there's no spectators for this year's event. I know that usually there's some folks that like to come out and watch, but no spectators this year. But our police department and the Maple Grove ambassadors are very active participants in this. So Saturday, March 13th for that event.
All right, put that on your calendar. We've been passing along updates about the My Ride service just to let residents know about some of the updates there. Again, what are some of those reminders, Heidi?
Yeah, so just a reminder that we do have the online app to reserve your trip as well as to pay for that service. And then there is the expanded service area into areas of Brooklyn Park and Plymouth. So we really encourage people to check out the website for this new expanded service of the My Ride program.
Final couple notes, recreational burn permits. This is something that, again, doesn't seem appropriate for this time of the year, but this is when that timing happens. What do residents need to know related to this?
Yeah, so this is an annual process with the city. Again, these permits are free. Our intent here is really just to get current information out to folks for recreational fires in their backyard, so they make sure that they're doing that safe. Those permits expire on December 31st every year, so hop on the website, take a look at that, and get your new permit for 2021.
Final note, let's talk a little bit about the snow outside and some help needed from residents to keep some things clean for the city services to happen.
Yeah, so kind of two aspects here. One is hydrants. We really ask for your assistance, and somebody taking responsibility in the neighborhood for clearing out that hydrant really can make a difference. We do have house fires from time to time, and when the fire department shows up, they're going to need to access that hydrant. And if they have to spend, 3-4 minutes shoveling it out and getting access, that can really slow things down. And time is important on those. So asking people to pay attention to those hydrants in their neighborhood and have somebody take responsibility for it. And then removing snow from sidewalks in front of their home in Maple Grove. That's the responsibility of the homeowner and the business to make sure those sidewalks are cleared, just to make sure that, folks have access to that. A lot of kids walking around the neighborhood, that kind of a thing.
Very good reminders. So that is a recap of all that's happening in Maple Grove in that January 19th meeting. Next meeting, as we look at it here, is scheduled for February 1st. And there will be a work session ahead of that talking about tree preservation and also some Arbor Committee items. If you need information from the city's website, that is maplegrovemn.gov, and you see the city's phone number as well. And again, next meeting on February 1st, and Heidi and I will be back together to bring you that recap in February. Heidi, thanks for your time once again. We'll see you next time on the Maple Grove City Report.